The Connecticut Sun have a fascinating season ahead. The man who's helped to build it, Darius Taylor, general manager, joining us. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
Ogunbowale for the win.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Well, hi there, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal, thanking you for making us your first listen every day. And again, thank you to the over 100,000 of you in April alone who made us your first listen every day, who understand that covering women's basketball 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, on all things past, present, and future. Saturday, the WNBA draft show. It matters. We're here for you. You've been here for us. And thank you. And of course, it is not just me. It is everyone over at thenexthoops.com. Over at The Next, we cover over 100 reported pieces on women's basketball every month. Make sure you're subscribing. It's normally $9 a month, $72 a year. We got a discount because the 27th WNBA season is coming up. Get 27% off. Subscribe and help all the good people who are doing the work. Jacqueline LeBlanc doing it, of course, all the time for the Connecticut Sun, where she is a beat reporter. She has talked to you, Darius Taylor, about this team. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of that in segment two. Segment one, though, we have to talk about your role as part of women's basketball's preeminent power couple. Do you think that's fair to say?
I don't know what you call it, but I'll take it.
Joni Taylor, of course, the head coach at Texas A&M. And, we were talking a little bit about this off the air before we got started here. But, I'm just wondering whether I don't think that nationally they understand yet, based on who's coming in, that this is going to be an elite Texas A&M team. In the Taylor household, is there an understanding that like something special is clearly brewing here?
Oh, absolutely. I think when we made the decision as a family for her to take the job, I think she saw that the opportunities that were in Texas at Texas A&M, and obviously being able to take some of her recruiting class that she recruited at Georgia to bring them here, along with the class her and her staff recruited for this 2023 season. And then, I mean, they've had some great success in the portal. A lot of teams have had great success, but I think her and her staff got a lot of the pieces that they needed in terms of filling holes that they had from last season. So I think it'll be an exciting season for her. I mean, on paper, they look really good. You still got to play the game, but I think her and her staff feel really good about some of the weapons and the types of players they have and the style of play they want to play with.
Well, congratulate her for India Rogers when you get a chance on my behalf. But
definitely will.
The other part of that is just balancing work with family. And, as somebody who's married, I'm fascinated about this as well. I'm in a household where we both work, and figuring out the ways to do it and balance it. Take me through kind of how those decisions are made, how you go about doing it, and, ways in which you're able to prioritize family at the same time as you both are doing these incredibly busy jobs.
Yeah. No, it's hard, but I think it starts with the grace of God, just giving us this opportunity and allowing us to have, parents that are retired that can help us a lot. And, they both, my parents, her parents are retired educators, and we trust them with our children in terms of helping them, learn and grow as, good children into young adults. And, a lot of planning, a lot of communication. I think it helps that, me being in the W and her in college, our seasons don't really intertwine as much. We're backed up to each other, but we don't intertwine. And it also helps that, I moved from coaching into more of a front office role, which allows me to be around more and just adds more to our balance, especially with her taking on a new job here at Texas A&M, which, when you hit the ground running on a new job, it's nonstop. You never seem like you have a day off. But a lot of planning, a lot of communication, a lot of looking at the calendars early, and still trying to build in time for us, time for family. I still try to, as much as possible, make my Friday dates with my girls, we have movie night. And if I'm not going to be there on Friday, then we might move it to Wednesday. So today might be movie night for them.
Mhm.
So we just always try to keep those special moments. And, our girls have been resilient and very understanding of our jobs. And always, it helps for us. Tell us how many sleeps you're going to miss. So how many sleeps before we see you again. And then, like I said, our parents just do a tremendous job helping us out. They practically kind of live with us, and they just go home to check on their own homes.
Right. No. God bless the grandparents and the babysitting they provide. I can speak to that as well. So I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do need to know the best movie out of Taylor Family Movie Night that you guys have seen in 2023.
That's a tough one.
Well, we asked.
I'll tell you one that's always on repeat. They love the Bad Guys. That's like one of their favorite movies. They love the Bad Guys, and so we've watched so many. But the Bad Guys always is on repeat. Can we watch Bad Guys again? I'm like, again. So I try to get them to watch new stuff. There's so much stuff on Disney Plus, so I just try to stretch their minds and just introduce them to some of the things I watched and Joni watched when we were little.
Yeah. Well, listen, I applaud it. It's wonderful to see, and your success, both of your success, has been something I've really taken, if you forgive a point of personal privilege, a great deal of pleasure in seeing. So it's wonderful. And now, but so you talk about moving into this role, and for our audience at home who may not know, you have really done everything in this game. You have coached for on Dawn Staley's staff at the college level. You have coached on the pro level as well, and now to be in this GM role. Take me through what these first few months have been like. What have been sort of the biggest adjustments as you've come to think about the game in what is a new way in a lot of ways.
It's been challenging, but it's also been refreshing to be in a position where you're, in your career, you always look for opportunities where it doesn't feel like work, but you also want to be challenged. And I think that's what this role is for me. I'm learning a lot every day. But I think the biggest thing that helps me get over the top is, I have mentors that I speak with. I have a really good relationship with our president, with our coaching staff. And I think in some ways like a coach, but also, as in this role, I know that the biggest thing is trying to prepare for the future. To sustain success, you have to be thinking about the future and looking at your roster and looking at, paying attention to college, but also paying attention to the pros, because there are free agents that, will identify that we feel like fit our style of play and fit the grit of our culture in Connecticut. And so it's a heavy process, but it's one that I'm enjoying. Some of the other things I'm learning more, the analytic stuff. So, they tell you all the time when you get in positions to hire people smarter than you. And so we've done a good job of trying to surround ourselves with young up and coming minds that can help and think outside the box and think differently on how we should be approaching building our team and looking at the draft and looking at some of the analytics that will even help our current team.
It's fascinating, the ways in which we're seeing front offices grow. And you've seen it just in the last, half a decade in terms of being able to have different additional people to lean on and the difference it makes in terms of a WNBA draft process. Do you feel as if there are just significantly more voices in general across front offices here in the WNBA? And do you think the processes have improved as a result of it?
Definitely. I think that, our game continues to grow, and that with the growth comes opportunities. And so, one, it's being ready for those opportunities, but helping people prepare for those opportunities. So I think, as a league, we're doing a much better job of bringing, younger talent into the fold and also expanding our front offices on the business side and on the basketball side. And I think, some of the, you look at all the teams and, some of it I think has been pushed by, new ownership. And then again, it's just the growth of our game, the viewers, just the media coverage, the exposure has all been big in helping create those opportunities.
And just even beyond, you talk about college, you talk about pros. What do you do to keep an eye on the international game as well? Obviously we're seeing continued success from international players coming over, part of the draft, even into the first round, teams are looking in that way. What's your process for doing that? Because obviously it's a very difficult thing. It's tough to cover,
Yeah.
and be in so many places at once.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, as a staff, you kind of try to divvy out responsibilities in terms of who's watching international. Obviously, checking the stats overseas. Using some of the resources that are out there, some of the websites that keep statistics for international as well as statistics in the U.S. So then you pull up players on Synergy or whatever video that you use, and you watch their games. And then with free agency too, you get an opportunity to see some of these players live. When I think that's going to be a thing now, that when free agency comes, you'll see a lot of front offices kind of take off and go overseas until we figure out who's staying and who's going. So I think that this year a lot of teams went overseas. So there were a lot of big free agents. I also think this coming class is another big free agency class. So you could see, but in general, I think it's important to see these international players as the game has grown over there as well. So seeing them not only in competitions, but sometimes just going to see their league games, because you get to see, sometimes, your players or, American players playing against international players and seeing how, seeing them guard. Because I think a lot of times, international competitions like the World Cup and like the Olympics, there's a different set of motivation for teams. It's country, So then when you get them in a different setting where they're playing, games, you can really kind of get, a good feel for how they would translate to the W.
It's fascinating to see. And I want to get into in segment 2 some of the specifics of players you've brought in, because the fit there is a fascinating one in a number of different areas. First, do want to let the good people at home know about BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the sponsor of the show, and it is brought to you today because BetterHelp gives you an opportunity to stop getting so caught up in what everyone else needs from you and never take a moment to think about what you need from yourself. When you spend all your time giving, it can leave people feeling stretched thin and burned out. Therapy can give you the tools to find more balance in your life so you can keep supporting others without leaving yourself behind. So look, if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find more balance with BetterHelp by visiting betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. So when we look at what this offseason has brought, obviously there's no shortage of changes, but the place where I think it is most interesting to me is the area of perimeter shooting and the ways in which you have taken a roster that, frankly, was short on that last year. In a lot of ways, in the ways in which the Sun fell short of their goals, I feel like can be directly tied to that. And you've added, and it's just the place I want to start, Rebecca Allen. Now, just for our viewers at home, I want to take you through when I was covering the New York Liberty in the old days when they were at Madison Square Garden. I remember a Liberty front office person coming to me and saying, "We've got this shooter. She has such a quick release. She gets her shot off all the time. When we get to bring her over, Rebecca Allen's going to be an absolute star in the WNBA." It hasn't happened for her yet. Let's just be real about it. She has not gotten that routine opportunity to get 30 minutes a game. She hasn't been able to put up the numbers that, frankly, I think she's capable of. My guess is, based on you acquiring her, you see that too. Take me through what you see in Rebecca Allen, what you think she can be for your team this year.
Yeah, I've watched Rebecca Allen for a long time, even when when I was in Atlanta, and she's intriguing because of her size, because she's a deceptive athlete, because she's a good rebounding guard, and she's much better defensively than people think. But along with her offensive tool set of being able to shoot threes. She plays with great pace. She also, you know, she can post up smaller guards. So she brings some versatility that I think you need in this game to be able to be versatile and be able to adjust and be adaptable to your opponents.
People sleep on the shot blocking. She
Mhm.
is, especially for her size, an incredibly good shot blocker. You look at block percentage, and she's right up there with centers. And does that give you the option of playing her more four than three? Obviously Stephanie White's going to be the one who makes those lineups, but do you
Yeah.
see her in that way? Do you bring her in with that in mind?
Well, I think when we were putting this team together, we definitely, like the versatility of our team. Being able to play, DB, AT, Rebecca, even Dejanay, some in different positions, and then adding a Tiffany Hayes and adding a Ty Harris. I think those are really good pieces to help make our team better overall.
When you think about AT, it's hard to model for her because there's not a player who's really like her. I hear, people talk about, the modern Candace Parker, and they make that comparison. They're so different from one another. They're obviously, prototypical fours who are elite at passing. But
Mhm.
when you built this team, how much were you building around what AT can do, and how much was it, well, AT can do these things, and
Mhm.
so you have the flexibility of building in a variety of different ways? I'm just wondering sort of how that thought process worked for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at AT, she's a unicorn. What she can do defensively, being able to guard almost 1 through 5. Offensively, despite everybody knows her shoulder issues, but
Mm.
still being effective. To be able to run the point guard, to run up, push it on a break, to find the open player, to be unselfish, to be able to post up, and then still to be able to make shots that people don't think she can make. So she's very unique in that sense, and that's why it was important putting pieces around that fit in. Not only her, but also with Brianna Jones. She's still one of the probably true back to the back posts, and I think obviously this year you'll see her be able to do a little more offensively and extending out her range and things like that. But I think building around those two especially. We had to get pieces that fit, and I think with AT again, you got to have a guard that you know that is versatile, that doesn't have to always be the point because she's going to play the point a lot. So they're going to have opportunities to get out and score and transition and space the floor and make open shots. And so players that fit that mold were important, to try to acquire, and that's what we went after this offseason.
You talk about scoring in transition. Obviously, Tip Hayes, who you touched on, is somebody who lives to do that, as you well know from having coached her yourself. But you know, she's obviously been asked to carry such a heavy load for so many points in her career. Do you feel as if this is more of an ensemble piece as a team that allows her to, let's say play 25 minutes a game,
Yeah, yeah.
but be able to go full force the way she
Mhm.
always does, no matter what position you put her in?
Yeah, I think definitely where she is in her career, having depth will help her longevity.
Mhm.
She can still be a 3 level scorer in this league,
Right.
and she can still has first team all WNBA potential. She's capable on any night of doing that. Just not having to do that every night, I think, is important for her. And we have the type of team that she doesn't have to do that every night. We just need her to be solid and bring what she brings to the table, both on the offensive and defensive end.
It's interesting to me also that we saw the most efficient year of the 3 years DeWanna Bonner has had in Connecticut last year, where she was being asked to do a little less, where instead of being the uh, let's say the preeminent perimeter scorer, that you could use her in a role similar to what you saw when she was in Phoenix, similar to when she was, let's say, third option after Diana and BG.
Mhm.
Where do you see her fitting in to the offensive flow, as it relates to this year? And, certainly it's weird. At some level, it feels like it was just yesterday she came in here. But, what do you think in what is the last year of her contract, her opportunity is here for this particular Sun team?
Again, I love DV's energy. I think that her being able to come home, obviously she had off season, she had off season surgery,
Right.
and be able to rest her body. Her coming in refreshed, with just a new energy and her versatility. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, you watch her, just in shooting drills because she's not doing live stuff, and you could see like her rejuvenation and her still moving, like she hasn't been in the league for, I don't know, 13, 14 years now.
Yeah.
And so, that's going to be, the coaching staff's task of how they use her and where they use her. But I think you'll see her, just in different positions. Again, with our versatility, I mean, you can have Becca and BB, on the floor as the twos and the threes. Like, how big is that lineup? How versatile is that lineup? And so, it gives the coaching staff, tools to be able to play different ways that maybe teams aren't used to or don't want to match up with.
I mean, big, and then you just think of the length and then the wingspan of the people 1 through 5 in that lineup. It's incredible. I just DB is 16th all time in win shares in the history of this league, with 2 titles under her belt. She has a Hall of Fame resume already. It's fascinating to add to it. Well, before I let you go, I have to talk to you about Alexis Morris. And just, you spoke on draft night to our Jacqueline LeBlanc about you saw her as a first-round talent. Angel Reese has been very vocal about that, calling her a first-rounder throughout our time covering her all year. Alexis is such a fascinating story to me, and somebody who's been through so much. And she wears a heart on her sleeve when she talks to us, when she talks to everyone. Just take me through that evaluation process. And, it's not easy to make a WNBA roster no matter where you are. But where is she positioned when you look at this team and this roster coming into training camp for you guys?
I've been watching Lex, probably since she was playing AAU. So I know of her capability and what she can do. As you mentioned, it is hard making a roster in this league, especially on a team that is playing with 11. So she's going to have to do every bit of her work to earn a spot. But like I said on draft night, I thought she was first round talent. I thought she was one of the most consistent point guards this season in college. It's all about the transition. I think the hardest transition for college players is, I think, in the post and the point guard position when you get to this level. And so it's a learning process. It's a learning curve, and it's how fast you pick things up. And it's being able to do multiple things at one time, make multiple reads. A lot of times, in college, you're kind of told, like, this is going to be there. So that's what you look for. Now with this game, it's, players are playing, and you got to play off of them. And so you got to read more, just at a faster pace and make quick decisions. And so that's the thing she's trying to pick up now. And it'll take some time for her to do that. And, at the end of the day, we'll see where the chips fall. But, I think she's had good energy and practice. I think she's, doing what she needs to do to learn and pick things up. And we'll just have to see towards the end of training camp where things land.
I'm curious how you feel about this, just generally. There's a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, that player's draft stock went up, that player's draft stock went down. And to me, and in all these conversations, general managers, you've generally watched the player since AAU. How somebody does in a specific game is almost impossible to move the needle. You know who that player is.
Yeah.
That said, 6 for 6 and 15 points in the fourth quarter of a championship game when that trophy's sitting right there. Does that, among very rare instances, change potentially the way you think about a player? If somebody does it in the spot where the chips are down?
Mm-hmm. I think you definitely consider it with your evaluation. You want to see who are closers, who are people that are not afraid of the big moment. There are obviously people that will deliver the pass. There are obviously people that will make the shot. I think she's one of those people that will make the shot.
Yeah.
And so that's a rarity. A lot of people don't have that what we call kind of killer instinct or have that confidence to take that shot, 10 out of 10 times. And I think she's one of those players that will. Obviously, she's not there yet because, she's come to a new team where there's a new pecking order and there's veterans. But, I'm sure if they told her to take that shot, she would take it. So.
No doubt about that. That is for sure. Well, Darius Taylor, it is delightful to chat with you. I wish you nothing but success this year, both in terms of the Sun and in terms of Friday night movies. I know our listeners, thank you for being with us. I thank you to our listeners. As I said, more than 100,000 strong in April alone. We're going to go beat that in May, and we will be back with you tomorrow. The great Allison Clayman made a new movie about the New York Liberty called Unfinished Business, will be with us. Thank you, as always. And to our listeners, we will be chatting with you tomorrow and every day. Until then, I am Howard Megdal wishing you a wonderful Wednesday.
Ogunbowale for the win. Good!
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.